In today's video, we have the Bambu Lab A1, and this one specifically is in the combo, which comes with the AMS system, which lets you print 4 different colors or combinations. So in this video, we're going to unbox it, set it up, and do some prints. Alright, and so this is the Bambu Lab A1 combo. Very excited about this printer. This is the box it comes in. We can see here a little picture of what the printer and the multi-material system that comes with this printer. So the box is not too large and not too heavy at 33 pounds on the shipping label. Let's go ahead and open it up. And so the way Bambu Lab does it is you have 2 sides of this plastic bag that's taped to the box itself. And there's little pictures on the side to grab the bag and lift everything out. And this technically what comes out. So as you guys can see, everything is very well packed. On the top we got a little air cushions. Here we have our build plate with the quick start guide. So on the top layer we have quite a bit going on, and it appears to be a lot of the multi-material parts, the stand, the spool holders, and these look really cool, and there are 4 of them. A little toolkit for the A1, and also a little project that comes with this printer that you can do where it has the hardware that's needed to build what's here on the picture. It looks like an engine. So that's it for the top layer. Alright, so our next layer down also looks quite interesting because we have the main center here for the multi-material, brackets, holders, the little clean out station. So this is going to be our main assembly holder for all of the spools. So the holders will go on here. And then these are all of our little extruders, detectors for the 4 different filaments. And we do have a little plug here that comes out that plugs into the printer. And here we have some kind of bracket that looks like a filament guide maybe, and it clips on. And then it looks like this piece here maybe connects over here. Okay, so this I think is just the spool holder, which makes sense because, you know, if you're just going to use the A1 without the multi-material system, this is where you'd put your spool, and this is kind of like a guide for the filament so it doesn't get tangled. Very nice. We got this little contraption, and this is pretty cool because this is where the nozzle comes in, purges, and then there's a mechanism here that moves the purge out. The extra filament flies out to the side. So yeah, everything's quite nice and well built and thought through. And then we have our power cord, which we have the US type, 3.5, 4 feet. All right, and so that's this layer. So the next layer down, we can kind of see we're getting to the printer itself. So we have the gantry, which is the upper part here, and then we got the base on the bottom. Again, very well packed. So there's little paddings everywhere, zip ties, tape holding things together. And so on the very bottom, we have our base nestled in this foam. Let's go ahead and get all this packing material out of the way. So we have all of our tubing for the multi-material system. We can get a very small sample of coiled white PLA. And here we have the base, and it looks like this is the front. And check this thing out, guys. It has a little screen that swivels. Pretty cool. Everything looks really nice. Now that we got everything out, we should probably get to our quick start guide there and see how we can put it all together. All right, so let's see what the manual says. We do get some more stuff in here. Safety guidelines. This one's for the 3D printer. This one's for the AMS Lite. And then we got the warranty card. So this is what our manual looks like. It's a kind of a small booklet, but very nicely presented, everything that's included, everything inside the accessory box. Here shows us how to install the build plate and then putting the printer together. So it looks like there's a few bolts, looks like 4 on the bottom. So they're going really step by step there to, you know, get the packaging off and what to do next. And yeah, I guess we need to go ahead and see what we have in here. And it appears that it's everything that we need to put the printer together. So it has a little baggie here. It says for the base, more baggies with labels. And you guys can kind of see what kind of tools we get. A few Allen wrenches here, another nozzle cleaner, little rubbery thing. And that's actually here on the back of the bed. This looks like an extra one. We also get a little clean out needle and a couple of tubes. One of them is lubricant oil and the other one is grease. And also there is a blade included, which is for the scraper that you print out and then put the blade together. And that's the baggie where it says for the scraper. And below that, you guys can see we get a couple extra cutters, and these are going to be the filament cutters here, basically shears for the filament. And then we got this little spinny thing that probably goes somewhere. Yeah, very nicely presented. Only thing is this is not like a carrying case or anything. It's just a plastic holder, which is still nice to have. All right, so let's go ahead and cut all these zip ties, and you're going to need something to cut the ties with. There are quite a few of them. And again, I really like the attention to detail. We got little plastic wraps around the aluminum plus foam pads everywhere. And yeah, again, the attention to detail is quite incredible. All right. And now our, looks like hot end is free. So in the manual here, it shows us that we need to take out some bolts to unlock the heated bed because this is not moving right now. So let's go ahead and flip it on its side. And there are little green circles, and that's where the 4 bolts are that we need to take them out. So let's grab our wrench and remove them. Kind of surprising that they're using 4 bolts to hold the bed. It seems like 1 or 2 maybe would have been enough. All right, that's all 4. And now our bed should move back and forth. So this is gonna actually sit, you can kind of see here a T opening right on top of here. And here we have a little picture that kind of shows how it goes in on an angle and then down. And they also say to orientate the screen vertically or fold it in. And we probably should have done that before we unzipped everything according to the manual, but I don't think it's going to matter too much, but you can do however you want. So yeah, simply the base will just sit right over here. Let's go ahead and fold the screen. And you're going to go in kind of at an angle inside and then lay down. And it should line up and kind of fall down. And now it's all together. Actually quite simple. So if we go to the back and push our bed all the way to the front, we can see that there's a little cover here. And so this cover just pops off. There's a little nail tab here that you pull up and the whole cover slides out. And it's a pretty long cover, it goes across the whole printer. And that exposes all of our mounting points that we need. Basically everything that's in a green circle is where a bolt will go in. And pushing the bed this way reveals a couple more here too. And here we have a picture of removing the cover and then showing us where all the bolts go in, the little circles, very simple, and then pushing it the other way for 2 more. And then we're gonna reinstall the cover back on. So here we have a baggie that says for the base housing, and there are quite a few of them. And we're simply just gonna install them everywhere where there's a green circle. So this is definitely going to take a little bit of time, but not too bad. Make sure you get them in there snugly, as it does have some resistance, but then when you go to the end, you can feel that it doesn't go more. So yeah, they made it very simple where it's quite logical. Green circles means bolt, and the bolts are all the same. Actually, maybe you guys can see better here from the back. And while we're under here, you guys can see the kind of rails that the bed rolls on. Well, I guess it's one large rail. All right, so I put a bolt in every little green circle, and we got 3 bolts left. So 1 is extra because the other 2 go on the front, and we're gonna have to move the build plate to the very back. And you guys can maybe see here we have the 2 green circles. So yeah, pretty simple. And you know, this is gonna be the bulk of the assembly, is just putting these bolts in. And while we're under here, we can see we got a pretty thick belt, much thicker than usual, and it is very nicely tightened, so we don't have to worry about that. So for the next part, we're gonna move the plate back to the very front, grab our cover, and install it back in. And it just clips on, and that's it. We are done with connecting the upper portion to the base. So for the next part, they want us to put the printer on the edge of the table like that so we can access the bottom to connect the bracket and all the cables. So we're literally just going to lay the printer on its back here with the front pointing up. Just like that, and actually holds just fine. But yeah, here we can see how everything lined up. We do have a plug here taped that we'll need to plug in, and also the other plug here that comes from the upper portion that needs to be also clipped in. So you guys can see this little flap there. This is where this wire is going to go through. There is also a USB Type-C that plugs in under here. And then there is also a little bolt that holds everything together right there. And so the way this thing is going to go on is it's going to literally go into these holes, the little tabs. And then we're going to slide it up to plug in the USB Type-C. And then we're going to run the wires and plug them all in. So yeah, if you guys can see that, we're literally just going in there. And when it falls in, then we can go up. And you guys can see the USB Type-C plugged in. Now we can go ahead and secure it with the bolt. So that's not going anywhere. Let's go ahead and run this plug here. I'm gonna feed it here through this groove and then around to this section here. And so they all have little stickers on them, color coded. So this is yellow, green, and white. And the plugs are color coded also. Again, they made it very simple. So let's just go ahead and plug everything in. So we got the green there for the X motor, the white one for the camera. And then this one here that travels from the bottom is the X motor. That's the, I guess, orange, maybe not yellow. Here we can kind of adjust the length if we need to. Making sure everything is nice and tidy. So make sure you get your cable in the groove really well before you try to lock this little door in. So once everything's good, we can click it on and everything is secured. Pretty incredible how much detail and thought went through everything, even putting these cables on. All right, so that was easy enough. Now we can flip it back around. All right, so for the next part, we're gonna go to this side, specifically right here, and we're gonna install the purge wiper, which does have one bolt, and it's specific in its own bag, and this is the wiper. So with the metal part where it says keep clear, it's gonna go to the front like this, and it's literally going to slide in from the back. And there's a bolt that will go from the bottom up, just this one here. So yeah, pretty straightforward and not hard to install at all. All right, that should be good and it should be pretty solid. And so the way this works is when the head gets here, it moves a little slider here and then it purges, and when it moves away, it makes the purge fall out this way. Very clever design. It's all mechanical. There's nothing electronic about this part, so I like that a lot. And so that's actually our last step. The next part, it goes to the AMS, and I think I want to skip that for now, and we'll go straight to installing the spool holder on the top, because I do want to run this thing just by itself at the start, and then we'll put the AMS together and do that. Here we can kind of see how that will work. The spool holds on top and then goes down and goes into one of the AMS, it actually says here AMS feeds, meaning filament will go straight in there. So this is our spool holder. It's all plastic, but feels pretty good. We do have a little clip here, some foam pads inside, and so it's gonna just clip here on top. So we're just gonna kind of center up this piece where the spool sits itself, and then it just goes over the channel and then locks in the back, and that's how it's held. So the spool will go here, then the filament will fall to this little guide, and then down into the hot end extruder, which has this AMS here. So we're just gonna feed it through any of the 4 holes. Yeah, simple as that. We're pretty much done. So let's go ahead and install our PEI sheet, which is textured on both sides. Very nice, so you can use either side. And it does say here it's for PLA, ABS, and PETG, flexible sheet. And we also need to remove this film. And then this just lines up to the back and magnetizes down. And that's pretty much everything. All right, so let's take a closer look at the A1. So starting here on top, we can see we have the spool holder, and it does clip on pretty easily, comes off and on. So that's pretty nice. It is all plastic. This part unscrews. And then we got a little guide up here that swivels, and it does look like you can use a PTFE tubing that goes from here to the hot end. And actually that's probably what they want you to do, as there's 5 of them in the package. So one end will go in there, and then the other in any of these 4 holes. So the frame is aluminum with some plastic end caps, and it's already pre-built all together, so it's very sturdy and rigid. So let's go to the hot end next, as it's very interesting. We have this main plug that comes out of it, and it actually goes over here to this little junction box, and then from the junction box we got a main cable that goes down under. So we got our pretty cool design here. It's like a cutout. You can see the motor back there. Here we have the filament cutter, and that actually goes to this side and automatically cuts the filament, which is pretty cool that it's all mechanical. On the other side here, we pretty much have the same look. We do have a small little fan down here. There is a bolt or screw right here that looks like is the tensioner for the extruder release arm. So here we have an adapter that has 4 inputs, and we're just using one for now. and it does say AMS on it, multi-material system. It actually does push down. Now here it gets even more interesting. So this is like an indicator here of flow. This front plate here actually comes off. If you just kind of squeeze the bottom and pull it out, it clips out. And it's got like a little dome window. Here inside we can see the little flow wheel. And here it kind of shows us how to remove the heat break with the nozzle. So you got to remove the silicone sock first. And the easiest way to do that is just kind of pull it on the side and it comes off. And here you guys can see how the nozzle and the heat break here connects. It is spring loaded with a clip. You just kind of open the clip and then you can pull out the whole nozzle. There we go. And that's what the nozzle looks like. Definitely unique, but should be quite easy to change. If you do want to change your diameters or just the nozzle itself, it's quite simple. And yeah, very interesting and pretty unique how it's all engineered here. So let's clip it back on. There we go. And then the sock will just slide over. You just got to make sure you put it all the way in so it goes all the way around. And we can see underneath how it all sits in our fan shroud here with the exhaust ports next to it. And then we actually have a little Bambu logo underneath. So let's go ahead and put this cover back on. Simply just put in the top first and then click the bottom in. So we are riding on a linear rail on the x-axis here. And if we go to this side, we can see here we have the little purge chute. And the way this works is the nozzle goes this way and then it hits that little switch there that slides the little door here that way. And so what happens is when the nozzle gets here, the door becomes on the other side of the nozzle. And so it purges, and then when it's done, heads that way, and so the purge just gets kicked off and dropped here on the ground. So yeah, quite unique and pretty awesome how it's all mechanical. There's nothing electronic here, which is awesome. Very cleverly designed on this and also the cutter here. Now on this side, we also have some pretty cool stuff, which is a light here. And then we have a camera, and the camera has the diffuser on it. And so this can just kind of swipe over to the other side and diffuse the light more. Or you can cover up the camera so it doesn't see anything, depending on what you want to do. So let's go ahead and uncover that because we want to use the camera. It's kind of cool that they give you that option. There is a little tiny hole right underneath there, you guys can see. And I'm wondering if that's a microphone or not. So again, this is the junction box. The main wire comes in and then it just comes out here. So the wiring is very minimal. It's just one here and one here. So going down, we can see our build plate, and it does come with the PI textured sheet. It is coated on both sides, which is great. This does appear to look the same as the more higher end printers like the P1P and the X1, which is nice to see that you can interchange them. And also what's great is we have the 256 by 256 by 256 millimeters squared printing volume. Very generous for this pretty compact printer. So we do have the aluminum bed. You can see the magnets, what magnetizes the build plate. Towards the back, we have like this little clean out brush. It's kind of like a hard rubber. So we do have little bump stops for the build plate to butt against. Here we have a little note that says to leave enough room for this thing to travel. But let's go back to the bump stops because we have something pretty unique here for the back. Is it looks like there's a couple pieces of connectors there, or appears to be maybe, but in any case, this thing just butts towards the back. And then you lay it down and it should be perfect every time. So we are riding on rails on the bottom, but you can't see them because there's a cover here. And to take it off, you just simply unclick it from the back and then pull it out. And it's quite a large piece that goes all the way across. And here we can see a lot better of what we got under here. And this is one large rail. We got a large belt. All the green little circles is where you put the bolts in to assemble it. And there's our Y-axis motor. If we go to the other side here to the front, you guys can kind of see that the rails that it rides on are actually rods. It is a metal bearing under there riding on a rod. So, and very well designed for this budget-friendly A1. And here we have a little door that pops off. And you can get to the adjustment for the idler here, which is very wide, you guys can see. And if I roll it back and forth, it's pretty much perfectly straight. So let's put this back. I will put the plastic under trim back, which just clips on. So here we can also see some pictures, and it kind of explains how the tool head works. Pull the cover off. Also the camera and the light for the lens cover, and also reminding you to leave enough room for the bed to travel all the way back, which doesn't really go back too much, but there is a wire that kind of sticks out. Going to the front, you can see we have a little SD card here. And it does say cold swappable underneath, so meaning the printer needs to be turned off in order to pull this thing in and out. And it is a 32 gig card. And here we have a really cool looking screen that actually swivels away and kind of gets more compact. And it's a really nice, clean design. Feels really good. The screen's a decent size too for this medium printer. So let's take off the protector here, and yeah, we'll see how nice it is. But I do love how it swivels away, which you can do that if you need to. The only thing I would say is that it is a little bit offset, or if you guys can see, it's kind of leaning towards this way, so it's not completely flat. Not a big deal, just a little thing I noticed. And here it also doesn't sit flat, it's kind of like a little bit on an angle. But overall, pretty cool. So here I noticed we got maybe an LED light or some sort, or indicator. It looks like with some kind of light in there. So right behind the screen here underneath, we got some venting. This is where our main wire comes out. Very nice little end caps here. And yeah, very clean looking printer. Even under the bed, you can't really see much. It's just all kind of finished look. And the other side's the same way. Just got some venting here and very nice clean look. And flipping around to the back, we can see a little better how the x-axis is connected on each side to a lead screw. So it does have 2 lead screws, but I believe it's run by 1 motor, and you can kind of see that underneath. We'll look at it in a second. And going to the very bottom here, we can see our cable that goes to the bed. It is strained relieved. Very nice connection here to the back. And this is our input power. It is fused with an on and off switch. And to the other side, we have 2 plugs here, and this is going to be for the AMS, the multi-material system. And that's pretty much it. It's quite clean here, even in the back. So we've laid the printer on its side so we can see a little better underneath. So this piece here connects to this, which is the base. You can see this main wire. We have a USB plug there, and then 3 more wires plug, and one of them goes through here to the Z motor, which is right here. And you guys can see there's a belt. And I believe this belt runs all around here and then back to here. So we have 1 motor that runs the 2 lead screws. Very clean under here also. We got hard rubber feet, and then we got very soft rubber feet on the 4 corners. So yeah, and some venting here and a manufacturing label there. Again, very cleanly designed and a beautiful printer and very well made. All right, so I got the printer plugged in the back. Let's go ahead and turn it on. All right, so there's a little light here that glows, and the screen started up. And it also makes noises, so it appears to have a speaker. So here it says, unleash your creativity, start. We're gonna choose our language. There's quite a few of them here. English. Here we're gonna choose our region, North America. Here we can connect to Wi-Fi. You can skip this, but I'm gonna go ahead and connect it. So you're gonna choose your network and then put in your password. All right, we've connected. Here you can connect to the Handy app, which is Bambu Labs mobile application where you can control the printer from. I'm gonna skip that for now. Here you agree to some policies, and you can scan this to read what they are. Here you can join User Experience Improvement Program. So not too sure what that is, but we'll skip that. So for next part, the printer wants to calibrate. It's going to do vibration compensation and then motor noise cancellation. And it's going to take about 7 minutes. So we'll go ahead and start that. And there we go. So we can see that the printer does work. Everything's moving up, down, left, right, and also the bed was moving. So here I can see that the wire definitely does not need to be on the back, as it will be snagged. So it might actually be a good idea to maybe put them together like this. But we'll do that a little bit later. We're gonna let it do its thing. We don't need to be touching because it's doing compensations. So you guys can actually, well, I can hear that the motors are going quieter and quieter as it keeps doing that. So they were much louder, and now they're much quieter. So it's literally canceling the motor sound. Mostly all you hear is like the bearings moving on the rail. All right, now it's doing vibration compensation. And it actually shows you the hertz here. 29, 30, 31. There is some stuff on the table that's vibrating, but yeah, it's pretty aggressive. So I think the screen went into sleep mode. Let's see if we can touch it, because this is pulsing too. Oh yeah. So it did go to sleep. Or I guess just dim or turn off. But that looks like it's done. So let's click on something here. I guess if you haven't set up your Wi-Fi, you can go back and do it, is what it's saying here. And there's our main menu. So let's check it out here a little closer. So we got a bunch of icons on the top. So the first part there is our nozzle, and then our bed temperature, and then what appears to be maybe camera and Wi-Fi signal. These are the status. Then we got print files, filament, control, settings, and assist. So if we click on print files, we can see there are some that are included with the printer, actually quite a few, and they say what they are there. Very nice. We got puzzles, fabric, flexible panda, looks like it's in multicolor, pocket copter, that looks fun, and also the scrapers here, which they provided the blade. Very cool. So we're definitely going to have to do that speed benchy there, and maybe that's the first print we should do. But let's go back and check out filament. So here we can load and unload, and also edit, looks like. Okay, so you can put in here what kind of filament that you're going to use. Generic PLA one. Okay, so I do have Bambu Lab PLA, so I guess we'll change it to that. Basic PLA, yeah, pretty much. I think that is basic. And then we have dynamic pressure control, which is defaulted. Very interesting. Okay, and now it changes to PLA there. So let's go back. Here we have controls. This is where we can preheat the nozzle, the bed, also control the machine speed and then the fan speed. Here we have light on and off, and actually it was already on. You guys can't really see it, but it's not very bright, but it is there. And then we have extruder controls here. And then here we have the X, Y, and Z controls, including the home. Settings, we got account, the firmware, Wi-Fi, and maintenance. Then we got device, print options, languages, SD card, screen off time 15 minutes, lane only mode, it's just off, terms of use, factory reset. So yeah, pretty basic stuff. So if we click on account, this is where you can pair it with your Bambu Lab account to use the slicer. So let's click on firmware and see if we have any kind of updates. It does say latest. Okay, so yeah, I guess everything looks good here. We'll go back, and here we have an assistant, and there's no messages. Yeah, it looks quite simple and easy to use. So for next part, let's go ahead and load some filament, and I got some original Bambu Lab PLA, just regular, basic, and it's gonna sit here on the spool holder. And then we're going to run the filament here through the tube into the direct drive. So I just kind of butted it against. Let's go to filament and click on load. So it's going to preheat the nozzle, and it's going all the way to 250. So after that, it's going to check filament location, cut filament, and then pull back current filament, and then push new filament into the extruder and purge old filament. So it preheats quite quickly, definitely less than a minute here. So it's kind of going into that purge area, and there it goes. I believe it's pulling it in now. So here it's saying that there's action required. The filament grabbed, then click done. If it didn't, click retry. So I believe our filament grabbed actually. I can't pull it out, but I don't see it being extruded, so let's just click retry. So now it's pushing it. Okay, now I see it. There it is. It's coming out. So I guess we are good now. We're going to click on done. All right, so now it's purging even more. So if I knew it was going to do that, I guess I'd be happy. So yeah, if it grabbed, then you just click done and it keeps purging it. But yeah, so far pretty easy, guys. All right, so it's purged, and it's actually using a fan there to cool it off, and then it shoots it out right here. As you can see, there's a little booger there. So I guess let's go ahead and start our print. Now, I didn't see anything about bed leveling, so it must do that every time it starts. So let's just go ahead and start and see what happens. So we're gonna click on the file. So this is probably gonna be a pretty fast print. So it's saying that the bed temperature is too high. I'm not sure why, because it's cold, but in any case, confirm. Okay, so here it does give us options to do bed leveling and dynamic flow calibration. And I don't, are these? Okay, so they're turned on. So you can turn this on and off, including a time lapse. That's interesting. So yeah, it's going to do bed leveling and dynamic flow calibration. Click print. Wow, that's a lot of sounds there, and we do look like have cameras recording there for the time lapse. The bed is heating up now, and definitely a pretty nice menu. I can tell that the screen is not super sharp, but it's sharp enough where it looks good. A very pleasant screen, and it's colored, which is nice and very responsive when touching it, as you would expect. So here we're waiting for the build plate. Alright, so it's at 53, 54, and the printer is already starting to do something. I think it's using, yeah, it's using the nozzle to probe the bed. And it looks like we do go to 60 on the build plate. So it's trying to get rid of that booger, but it's still there kind of. Oh, okay, then it cleans it on the back. Look at that. I don't know if you guys can see, but it was actually cleaning itself on the little brushes in the back of the bed. Pretty clever. So now it's cooling off the nozzle, and the bed actually went to 65, I guess. And now it's going to do bed leveling, so it kind of tells you the status here of what it's doing. So it appears it's doing a 7x7. So I guess that's what, 49 points? And it was actually pretty quick. So now it's preheating the nozzle. And there it goes. So it's purging in the front there. Okay, so it's actually doing extrusion flow calibration. Very interesting. Now it's purging again over there. Alright, so it's printing now. And it's going crazy literally. So yeah, it's on a roll. It's not too crazy loud for how fast it's printing. It does say it's got 14 minutes left, so it's, I guess, a 15-minute benchy. Or maybe 14, I guess, but yeah, it's boogieing along like crazy. And the fans are not too loud. The movements are not loud either. And overall, it's quite balanced. It does make noise, obviously, at this kind of speeds, but it's quite tolerable for sure. So let's look at the screen here while it's printing. So we got the AI saying okay. We got the nozzle, bed temperature, the flow at 100, fans are 100. We have the light here on and off, and it kind of glows right here. And then we got a pause and stop button. So if we want to change the temperature, we just click on the nozzle, and here we can adjust it. And also the bed and the flow rate, so all your settings come up here. And actually, I guess I went to the main menu here where it shows you the file it's printing, the percentage, which is 40% done. It's unbelievable. I guess it's a pretty thin benchy there. But yeah, if you click on that, you go back to the printing menu here. So yeah, pretty explanatory and very easy to understand. And this is a progress bar here. Obviously, you get a preview there of the benchy. And we got 11 minutes left, 41% done, which is pretty incredible. And you can fold this away and it still is on while it's folded. Yeah, very nice little screen. I like it a lot. And just enough what you need to adjust things. So you can go to settings and do stuff while it's printing, which is kind of interesting. Alright, so our 14-minute benchy's done and everything's cooled off. And the machine does go, I guess, to standby. And this is pulsing and it's silent completely. So I wonder how we're supposed to wake it up. Oh, there it goes. Maybe I wasn't pushing hard enough, but yeah. Here we see it says complete. It took 20 minutes total, and I'm guessing that's with the warm up and everything because the benchy itself was 14 minutes. So you can reprint it, okay it to be done, or you can report flaws if there's any issues. And by the way, we did use 12 grams of filament. And just goes back to the main menu. So let's see how easy this benchy pops off. And look at that, perfect. And this is what it looks like on the A1 being only 14 minutes long. So it's kind of hard to see white. Hopefully you guys can see something there. But overall, very, very nice. We got very even layer adhesion. There is a little bit of layering, but it's quite minor considering this is printed extremely fast. Now it is super lightweight, so it's optimized just for this. There's practically no infill. There is a little bit of something inside there that's not perfect, but yeah, as far as the walls and everything, surprisingly nice. And maybe I'll do another one in black, that way we can see a little better. But if we go up, one thing I noticed that this cable here just kind of flops around, and there is this little clip that was included. It's with the tools. If we look, there's 4 larger holes and then 1 smaller one. And the smaller one is for this cable, I believe. So it clicks in there perfectly and holds on, and then we can choose any of the larger ones to connect it here to the PTFE tubing. That should be pretty good, maybe right here. So yeah, so I think we should see if we can print something else here. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the scraper because there is a little kit included with 2 screws and a blade that we can put the scraper together with. So let's just go ahead and print that out. Not too sure exactly why it's giving me this message, but it doesn't seem to be affecting our print here. And actually I forgot to take off this little purge it did, which is also the filament flow rate calibration, I guess. But yeah, as expected, the PI works very well. Now, I don't think we need to do bed leveling again, so I'll uncheck that, but dynamic flow calibration, I'll leave on. It is a little bit colder now than it was earlier, so maybe that has something to do with it. So let's go ahead and start that. And it does say it's gonna take 1 hour and 16 minutes and 37 grams of filament. So yeah, so far just printing one color is quite simple. The machine does everything itself. You just start it and it takes care of purging, making sure it's offset and all that stuff by itself. So there is a little booger there on the nozzle. I'm just gonna leave it and see what happens there. Keeps wanting to get rid of it, but it's still on there. So after rubbing on that little rubber brush back there, it fell off. Alright, and there it goes. And the offset looks perfect. Very impressive. So yeah, I really love the simplicity and how easy it is just to print, as you don't really have to think about it. The machine does everything itself. And again, guys, this thing is very quiet. I got my microphone pretty close to it right now, and there's not much noise coming out, so yeah. Alright, so we're gonna let this thing print out, and then we'll see if we can put the scraper together. Alright, so our scraper's done. We'll click OK here. And yeah, it printed actually in 3 different pieces, meaning like it finished this, and then it went to this, and then here, which is pretty cool. So it wasn't going back and forth between the 3. In any case, everything comes off very easy. And the bed is pretty much cool. It's 29. So pretty good quality here. There is a slight stringing, pretty thin, like whispers, and yeah, it turned out really nice. It was actually a pretty quick print. So this is the holder. It's got the Bambu logo there, and here they got little indentions. Maybe you could put like some kind of a label in there or something. But yeah, the way this works is we're gonna grab the 2 little screws, and then we're gonna grab our blade. Be careful, it's sharp. And so there's 2 little dimples, and they'll line up with the blade. And you gotta kind of push it in there where it clips in. And then we're gonna grab this piece here, and it's actually not gonna go here, but it's gonna go on the other side right here. And this is just kind of like a thumb thing where you can hold the blade and scrape. And the bolts are actually gonna go through the front here. So be very careful as this blade is sharp. Grab the wrench we need. It's the same one we put the printer together with. And we're just going to run the bolt down. And then when it starts poking out just a little bit, we're going to line up the little thumb thing and then tighten it as we're all holding it down there from the other side. And now we'll do the other one. All right, and that's it. And we got our scraper. It's a pretty nice scraper actually. And to keep yourself safe from the blade and just store it, it literally slides. And just like that. Look how cool that is. And we got a Bambu logo actually on the front here and the wording on the handle. So for the next part, I'm going to change the filament to black, print another bench like this, and also maybe print some more stuff, and we'll see how that turns out. And then we'll go to the AMS, put it together, and do some multicolor prints. And so if we click on filament, unload, it's going to go through the whole process of getting the filament out. So it's going to first heat the nozzle, check filament location, cut the filament. So it's going to go over here and use the cutter and then kind of push it out so you can grab it and put another spool in. So yeah, so far the loading and unloading of the filament is quite easy and flawless. And you guys saw how it did the cut there. It actually came up to it and then slowly pushed on it. So now it's pushing it out and it should be ready to go. Let's see here on top. Yeah, it's loose completely. And it's got a clean cut. So all we got to do is feed it down through the tube and into the extruder. And once we butt against something, we can stop. And then we'll go through the loading process by clicking on load, and it's going to do that. So it is purging there. So it did grab the filament. I'm going to click done. It's going to continue purging. And eventually there should be some black coming out there. And there it goes. It turned to black. And there we go. Now it is finished. So yeah guys, very simple to change the filament on this machine. And you can edit what you put in here by clicking on the edit and choosing what kind of filament you put in. And now we can go ahead and print our next print, which I'm going to do another benchy in black. And I'll leave the dynamic flow calibration on again since we put new filament in. So I got a little prompt for update and I started the update, but it's been stuck on 32% for about 5 minutes now. All right, so we got this come up. It says update fail, please restart and re-update. Very strange. So I guess I'm gonna reset the machine and try again. So maybe we should go to settings. And there we go, it actually prompted us again. So let's try that again. All right, hopefully this time it'll work. And there it goes again on 30. Oh, there. It passed the 32 this time. Hopefully it's going to work. Looks like we are going and going now. Alright, so we're actually at 99%. And there it goes. So it's restarting. And the update was successful. So the A1 by itself is great, but with the AMS, it really takes it to another level. So let's go ahead and put it together. And it's actually much simpler than it looks. We have the stand, which it is called officially AMS Lite. It's a pretty simple stand with some rubber feet underneath. Here we have the main mechanism, which we have the extruders here, and there's little buttons you push to release the extruder. The filament will feed from the bottom on all sides there. And we have color code here. We got orange and green, and that's going to correlate with the holders themselves. Like you can see here, that's orange. So orange is going to go on the orange shaft, and then just literally click in. So let's go ahead and do that. Green, and you do kind of have to twist them around for them to line up. And once they do, they click in, and they are kind of spring loaded. If you guys can see that, they roll, but then they kind of roll back. So every time, I guess, the filament retracts, it kind of takes the spool back too. So that's pretty clever actually. And also multiple spools can fit on here as this is all flexible and springy. So yeah, very excellent thought through design. And on the top, we can see we got labels. It says 1, 2, and then 3, 4 here too. So yeah, and obviously you're gonna line up 1 here with this extruder here, when you're putting the filament through, so the machine knows which one is which. And so to install this, you just simply set it over the foot. And I just realized on the back of here there's quite a bit more information. It might be interesting to somebody, but it does run on 24 volts, 0.5 amps. So yeah, this bottom part here is just literally going to line up on top there, and it kind of falls in right into its place. And then we got some of these little bolts or screws that say for AMS, and there's 2 on each side that we're going to thread in to hold it all together. Now the other side, and our AMS is assembled. So we do have a wire here, and it's not too long, looks like about a couple feet, and that's gonna plug in the back of our printer, which if we flip it around, you guys can see in the back we got a couple plugs, and looks like it can handle 2 of them. And theoretically you can plug it into either one, but all the pictures show this side here closer to the edge, so that's what we'll plug. And the instructions explain everything, pretty much what we went through. And also connecting the PTFE tubing is pretty simple, but there is one thing to keep in mind, and that is that on this end where they're packed together, 2 of the PTF tubings are longer. And so the longer ones are gonna go farther away, and the shorter ones are gonna go closer. And so there is no right or wrong, just longer goes on the farther away part and the shorter on closer to the printer. And this is just like inserting anything else. There's couplers here, insert it, and that's it. And it should hold it together on all of the sides, as you guys can see there. So yeah, as you can see, the even flow here going towards the printer. Now on the print head itself, I'll lower it down just a little bit here. I do have the single printing tube in there, so we can pull that out. And I do have some filament in there, so probably should have took that out first. And obviously we probably should remove that, as we don't want extra weight for no reason. And here we can see that we have a little spacer and the 4 outputs, which should be very similar in length. They might be a little different, but should be close. But we're just gonna simply click them all into the AMS splitter here, which has the 4 inputs. These don't really matter where they go, as this is just a funnel into one, but you do want to try to put them as straight as possible so they're not all too tangled between each other. But yeah, you just simply plug them in just like that. And then here on the spacer, we do have an extra slot for this wire that also slots in and holds it all together. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. So we got to make sure that our AMS is close enough where the nozzle can go all the way that way, which you can easily do that, as you can see. And yeah, that's pretty much how you install this thing, and it looks really interesting and unique for sure, and gives us the ability to print with 4 different filaments or materials or colors. So let's go ahead and power on the printer, and the AMS actually lights up. There's little lights right here, maybe you guys can see them kind of blinking of, hey, there needs to be filament in there. And speaking of filament, this was also in the box, and I'm not sure if every printer comes with this, but mine did. And these are actually, oh, look at that, there's a new firmware available. So I guess let's go ahead and update. So I updated it once, so this is the second time I'm updating. So yeah, these are actually samples that Bambu Lab includes of all the different filaments that they have available. So each one of them is labeled what kind it is. Like this one's PLA basic, and it has the part number to it, so you can find it easily. I'm not sure if this is actual print. It looks like molded plastic. Yeah, it is molded, but yeah, pretty much the representation of the different colors and materials that are available from Bambu Lab. So yeah, this gives you a better idea of what it actually looks like before you purchased the filament. So it looks like we've updated successfully. Very nice. And everything's been seamless so far with this printer. So we're going to be loading in some Bambu filament, PLA basic, to do our first multicolor, or yeah, I guess multicolor, since we're all using PLA. One thing I'm not too sure about is what color should go where, as this is my first time using it, but I'm just gonna randomly put them in each one and then we'll figure that out. But yeah, I guess I'll just start over here so it's easier to see. Yeah, so this is going to be number 3 over here on the front, and you're going to want to put where the filament rolls out onto the inside. So you're rolling it out to the extruder right here. Well, actually this one's on the inside. The 3 one is closer to the middle. So yeah, but we're just going to simply fit the spool onto the spool holder, and it's going to kind of lock in there. I don't know if I can twist this enough to show you guys, but yeah, underneath there on number 3, which is on the inside. So we're going to need to push the extruder button on this right here to release the arm so I can go in. Okay, so I grabbed it, it's actually pulling it in itself. Wow, that's cool. So I guess it knows how much it needs to push it through. It got to about right here, so it didn't go all the way. We'll let it do what it's got to do. And so the number 3 light is on now because it does have filament. So there are little motors inside that do push the filament through, like an extruder motor. So yeah, pretty sophisticated system here. And we're gonna load it up. I got white here. Put that on this side, which is number 2. That's gonna be on the inside here, and it's feeding this through here now. Pretty awesome. So this thing's getting kind of heavy. It is a little bit flimsy, I guess understandable as kilograms of spools are heavy. So here we have also a PLA basic, but this one is brown, which is quite interesting. And the spool is different too. These are clear, and this one's more like a off-white or light gray. When they do come new, you do peel it here, the tape from the spool, and then you can either cut it or take the tape off. Either way, probably cutting it is easier. And we'll put this brown as number 4. And feed that through, and it grabbed it. And for our last one, a little more exciting, which is orange color, or it's kind of like a hot orange, I guess. And we're gonna put this one as number 1. All right, so it's pulling it in. So this is my first time using an AMS, so I might do a few things that are incorrect, but we'll try to figure it out here. You guys probably can't see the screen too well, but I'm gonna click on filament and see what it shows me now. Okay, so it's actually showing me 4 rolls. I don't know how, but it knows the color of each one. All right, well, that's kind of weird. I'm a little perplexed because it must have some kind of sensor inside that knows the color, or maybe I'm missing something, but yeah, really impressed that it knows each color. All right, well, that's really interesting and quite impressive. So let's see if we have any kind of files here to print that are multicolor. We do have this panda here that looks like multicolor, but I guess let's click on it and see what happens. So we do have a new tab here that says use AMS, and it's selected. The only issue is our panda might turn out a little funny because we didn't slice it, so it would be interesting to see what colors are used for the panda. And before I start that print, let's go ahead and take off this spool here. And actually the whole spool holder just pops right off. Very simple, and it also comes with extra organizing clip and the tube for the single spool printing if you want to do that. All right, so it looks like everything is ready, so I'm just going to click next. It's telling me here a few things that I don't completely understand. Oh, okay, so it's showing me the colors of what the panda should be. So 2 is white, 3 is black, and then the blue is missing, which should be somewhere. So we didn't do blue. Maybe we can change the blue to orange. That would be interesting. So maybe, can we do that? Okay, so we select that, and then we select 1. There we go. So basically you choose the colors you want for each of the parts of the printer. So I guess when you slice it in the slicer, it'll make a lot more sense, but it's pretty cool. They still give us the option to choose what colors are going to be used for what. So the machine knows the colors, which is the impressive part to me, or at least I wasn't expecting that. So let's go ahead and click on print. All right, we'll click print, and there we go. It's starting. And according to the little preview there, I think the blue is his eyes, so it should be fine as orange. But yep, it's going to do its usual thing. Raise you guys up a bit so maybe we can see a little better what's going on here. Yeah, it's just doing bed leveling now, and it should get to the interesting part here shortly. This seems to be kind of snagging here on the edge. Maybe instead of the cables kind of pushing towards the back, I should have made them where they flow more towards the front. It's probably something to consider there. Let's see here, maybe we can lower this. There we go, I think that's better. Maybe not, it's still going over the edge here. Here we should get some kind of purge on the side, which might be black, as the panda is black on the bottom, looks like, according to the preview there. But yeah, this is really exciting. All right, so it's white. So it's pulling it in. And I can see it just entered the head. And now the extruder took over. We can kind of see it spinning there. And it is actually purging. So I had black in there before, so it's pushing that out. And there comes out the white, I can see it. All right, it's popped out, and it's actually starting. Well, actually, no, I guess it's doing the flow calibration. All right, now it's actually printing. And there it goes, wow. All right, well, I can't wait to see when it changes the colors. I guess it's probably going to go from white to black next, and back and forth till eventually it'll get to the blue, which is the eyes, and maybe something else, we'll see, but they will be orange as we chose that. But yeah guys, again, very impressive just how everything works so seamlessly. So let's let the panda print, and we'll see if we can catch a color change here shortly. Well, I guess it's doing it right now. So it's cutting the filament. Now it's pulling it back. And there goes the black. Wow. Super impressive. So the extruder got it. Now it's pulling it in. So it might be a little premature to say, but I feel like this might be the best multi-material system here that I've used, and especially for the price. So yeah, very impressed with the A1 combo here. Okay, so it's going to make a purge block also. That's interesting. So even though it is purging on the side, it's also making a purge block, I guess, just to make sure that the color is completely out, especially between white and black, which kind of makes sense because sometimes you can't get all of the black out of the white perfectly unless you flow it quite a bit. Either way, it's doing its thing and our panda is coming along. And we can see here on top of the AMS on number 3, it's blinking as that's the one that's flowing through right now and printing. So one thing I didn't realize that this is a pretty long print of 7 hours and 2 minutes left. So it looks like we're changing color again. The black is coming out and the white is going in. All right. So it is going to purge the white here on the purge block also. It definitely does use up more filament than I would like, but I guess that is, again, at the expense of perfection. And maybe the machine does know how much it needs to purge. But yeah, 7 hours later, we should have a panda. All right, so our panda finished, but not without some drama, and let's see how long it took. So it did take 7 hours and 15 minutes, just like it predicted. But what's interesting is about halfway or so, the power went out, and so the printer shut down, and I was actually away. And when I came back, I was expecting the panda to be released from the build plate, but it actually held up, and I didn't touch it, and just continued to print. Now, by continuing it, for some odd reason, it started printing offset, and then weirdly enough started printing correctly again later on, which is a little bizarre, but yeah, that's what ended up happening. And also another thing that I totally did not expect is how much waste we will have just from this print. So we have all of this poopies here, or whatever you want to call them, and on top of that we also have a purge block. And here on the purge block, you guys can kind of see where the power went out, which was about halfway, and how it's offset, weirdly enough, looks like only on the x-axis. Definitely surprised about how much filament we used, which is 213 grams total to print the panda. So let's go ahead and look at it. It's still stuck to the build plate. Actually, it's stuck very well. It does pop right off as expected. And even though this thing was offset, it still turned out incredible. And we can see on the face here, the eyes that we chose to be orange instead of the blue, which turned out perfect. So yeah, if we were looking for perfection, this is absolutely it, because going from black to white is very hard, as you need to purge it very well. And here kind of we can see the offsets as when the printer did turn off and then started printing to the side a bit. But what's interesting, it corrected itself higher up, went back to where it's supposed to be, which is kind of odd. But yeah, this thing's flexible. We have great detail here on the paws. Again, there was an offset here, but if we ignore that, look how clean the white and black is, even on these small intricate details. Same thing here for the fingers on the hands. So yeah, this is a really cool print. Their hands are kind of made where they can hang off something, which is kind of cool. Really exciting here for the AMS. A little bit unexpected on how much actual filament we're wasting with the purging, or I guess I can't really call it wasting as it's changing colors. But as far as the AMS itself, not a single hiccup. Everything worked. It pulls the filament out with its own motors as it cuts it here. Seems to have plenty of power for that. And then pushes it into the extruder that grabs it and does the color change and purge and print. So yeah, pretty incredible. And again, I'm pretty blown away with how seamless everything is. Yeah, with that said, I think for the next part, let's head to the computer. Let's see if we can make our own model that's multicolor and assign these colors here to a new model. And we'll see if we can slice something ourselves and print it out and see how that turns out. All right, so we're at the computer and I got the little SD card plugged in that was with the printer, and this is what's on it. So we got cache, cam, so just random folders looks like the printer uses to store on, images, what we printed, kind of like for the display. So yeah, it looks like just printer stuff. We also got a recorder and time lapses. Actually, we did make one time lapse in the beginning, but unfortunately I can't play it on this computer as it's not compatible for some reason in AVI format. That's what's on the SD card, not much at all, honestly. So you are going to need to get the slicer. So if we go to the bambulab.com website, we can see here that the A1 is presented here with the combo. So we're going to click on software to get the Bambu Studios, or you can actually use the Handy app on your phone to pretty much do everything you need also. And we're going to do the Studio here. And so you're going to download it either from Windows or Mac. And once you download it, open it up, which I have mine already opened, and I've used this before. So when you do first open it, you will need to choose your printer, choose the nozzle size, things like that. But yeah, it kind of will look like this here. So we got the A1 here with the 0.4 nozzle, and these are the different nozzles that are available. So they actually have other printers that are supported, which is pretty cool. So we got the Bambu A1 with the 0.4 nozzle selected here. We got the build plate type, which is a textured PEI that comes with the printer, and you can choose the different kinds. So here we have filament. If we click on that, we can see that it does read our AMS and has all the colors numbered here. And number 5 is our single color that was PETG the last time we used it. As far as the AMS here, it's all here, and you can edit each one here specifically to do different things in different temperatures. So yeah, we're just gonna leave everything the way it is. You do have a lot of control over all the settings. Here we have synchronization from the AMS. So if we click this, it'll synchronize it, which ours is already synced as it knows the colors here. But it usually automatically does that, but if you need to, you can synchronize that so it's the same as what's in the machine. And we also have settings here of all the different filaments that the system understands, which are all these, including some third parties, which is pretty cool, and generic stuff. So yeah, you can check and uncheck depending on what you want to use or not. We also have custom ones that you can make. So yeah, lots of options. This is a pretty amazing slicer. And below that, we can see we have the process. So this is going to be our slicing parameters. Well, you do have a few profiles here. This is the optimal, and this is what I've been printing on the whole time. It seems like it's the best overall, which is a 0.16. Might be better to go to a 0.2 standard, which probably would be better. So I'm just going to change it to that. And everything changes in here when you change that. So the advanced here is going to give you more options, this toggle. So you definitely want to turn that on if you want to see more stuff. But here we have control over quality, strength, speed, support, and others. So under quality, this is our layer height, the line width. So we're not going to mess with any of that. We got scene position. So yeah, you pretty much have everything here that you can control under the quality, which will leave everything the way it is. Under strength, I do like to bump up the wall loops to 3. So as you guys can see, if I did that, it's going to turn orange, meaning that a setting was changed, and you can reverse it. Or you can globally reverse it like I did earlier by clicking this, and it'll reset the whole thing back to the original parameters that, you know, the 0.2 standard has. So yeah, again, you can do stuff here. And I actually like to bump this up to 18%, the infill density. It's grid type. Everything else looks good. Then we got speed here, first layer of 50, and then after that it's going to be 200 on the outer and 300 in the inner. So very quick printing. So if you're using just PLA, this is just fine, which is what we got set up here. So everything is pretty much automatic, guys. There's not much you need to change or do. If you do need supports, obviously you enable it here and then you go from there. And others, we have bed adhesion where you can do skirt around the print, which for this printer I found I don't need it. Or you can even have brim on auto, which is it here. It's going to make a brim. I usually don't want a brim at all, so I'll click on no brim. So that's something you probably also want to change unless you do want brims, which helps the model stick. And then here we have actually a pretty important one, which is prime tower. So we can actually get rid of this prime tower if we wanted to. I think for the next print, let's turn it off and see if that's going to save us some filament. So here we have special modes, including vase mode or spiralized mode that we can click here to also use. And that's going to be just a few layers on the bottom and then one layer all the way around the model. So yeah, that's pretty much all the settings here. Now, if we throw a model in, and I'm going to do this turtle here for our next one, which actually has 6 different pieces, or it's split up in 6 parts. So if we choose all the parts and drop them in together, 6 of them, it's going to actually ask if we want to combine them all as one piece, meaning like make the turtle. Because if you say no, it'll just be all in pieces. So we're going to click on yes, and it's going to combine them all, and that's what it looks like. And if you print him just like this, he's just going to be one color in the Bambu PLA Basic here, orange. And by the way, these are all your controls up here for the model. So starting here in the middle, where you got move, rotate, scale, lay on face, cut, mesh, so you can like split it up in pieces. You can put text on top of it. Here we have something interesting where you can actually paint the model. So here you can see we can choose any color out of the 5 we have, which technically 4 here for our AMS. I guess we need to get rid of this number 5 since we don't use it anymore. Let's see, how do we do that? Maybe click on minus. There we go. I just selected it and clicked minus and it disappeared. So now we just have the 4. So you can actually paint the model. So let's say you do have just a single model without the separate pieces like we threw in here. You can pick, let's say we want the eyes white. We'll click on number 2 here and we can actually paint. And it kind of knows where, if you don't go over too far, you guys can see I painted that. Let me see, zoom in here a little closer. So you guys can kind of see it's painted perfectly pretty much. But if I go over more, let's say I'm painting right now, it kind of spills over and then goes. So, and I controlled Z that to go backwards. So you can actually paint pretty accurately if you're, zoomed in enough and pretty careful. It's really good at it. But if we click on this icon here where it says assembly view, what's going to happen is it's going to let us click on each of the parts that were combined. So let's say we just click the shell. You guys can see the shell is just highlighted now. So now we can assign the shell the color we want. And we got these 4 colors here. I guess we'll just do the shell brown. And if we click on his body here, we can change that to anything we want. Let's do just the orange that it was. I think that should look pretty good. And then we got another part over here that we can select. It's like this ring around him below. Let's do that black. That looks pretty nice. And then we'll select the eyes. So that's just going to be the inner parts here. And we're going to do that white. And then let's select the round part here, which is also the eyebrows, and we'll do that black. And look at that. Now we got all 4 colors painted on the turtle. Yeah, once you're done with that and you're happy with the colors you chose, or the ones you have, I guess, in your AMS, you can click return here and it just goes back to the slicer. But now you guys see that it's all set up for printing. Not only do you get the paintbrush to paint the models, you also can color code them according to the parts themselves as they're assembled. So yeah, hopefully that made some sense there. Now we just do what we usually do. I guess we'll print them just like that. So we're going to click on slice up here. It's going to slice the model. So when it slices, it's going to give us all this information here of the filaments and how much it's going to take, which is going to be 62 grams of the orange, 11 of the white, 18 of the black, and 35 of the brown. So yeah, and I actually left off the tower, and you guys can see the tower is not there. Now if we did check the tower, wherever it is, here we go. Now we can slice it again with the tower. And we can see there it is right there. So I didn't see how much the total was. So it's going to take 9 hours. Wow, this is even longer than the other one. Very strange. So yeah, not only does it take a long time, guys, it's quite a bit of filament too. So the total filament is 150 grams. Okay, well that's not horribly a lot. But what if we delete the tower and slice it again? Here we have 127 grams. So we saved 23 grams or so, something like that. But I'm not sure if that's going to be good or not. But I think we should go ahead and do it without the tower and see what happens. I'm quite curious. Now up here, you guys can see we were in prepare where we were messing around with the model. And then it goes into preview when you slice it. And the next one after that is device. And that's going to be our printer. So once we send the file to the printer, we're going to go to the device. And then we got project and calibration. But if we go back to the prepare here, guys, one thing I wanted to show you, if we can see this flushing volumes button, if we click on that, we can actually see here it says that when it changes the color to a different color, this is how much it flushes it out. I'm guessing this is in millimeters. Yeah, this is in millimeters. So it's going to go through that much filament before it goes to the next color. And it is automatically calculated somehow. So not sure what the best flushing volume is, but I guess we'll leave it automatic. But you can change it here, and it says it's recommended to be between 117 to 800. And then you have a multiplier here. So if we're happy with everything and we're ready to print, we're going to click on the print plate, and it's going to show us this little preview here of how much time is going to take. 8 hours and 23 minutes. The amount of filament, 127.2. We have our printer connected, which by the way is pretty simple to connect the printer. As long as it's connected to Wi-Fi, the Bambu Studios will find it. So here we have a choice of doing bed leveling, flow dynamic, which I'm going to leave off, and time lapse off, but we are going to obviously enable the AMS. So if everything looks good, all we got to do is send it, and it's going to execute our print. I'm going to click on send. So it's sending it right now. And there it goes. So we can see this is our device main menu, and we can see what the printer's doing. So here it's preheating now. The build plate is going to 65. It's on 28. And you can see here you can control the speed, okay, so it started. The lamp here, the fan. We got all these X, Y, and Z controls in the home. And we also have the extruder control here. So more importantly here, we have the AMS, and it kind of shows you the status of it and what it's doing also. And you can load and unload from here. This huge window here is our camera. If we click on play, it should pop up here. Yeah, it's a little bit buggy on mine. I don't know if it's the internet or just the printer. If I just stop it and play it sometimes, there it goes, yeah. But it's very, very delayed, so it's nice to look at it at a glance. Plus the angle's kind of not so great either. But in any case, below that we have the printing progress. Basically it's at 0% and it tells you what it's doing, changing filament. And the layers here from 0 to 239, and it's gonna take 8 hours and 22 minutes. And you guys can see here, if I click on this here, this is the printer that we're connected to. I actually have another printer here, which is the P1P, and you can switch between these two. So you can also access your micro SD card, it looks like, and it says not supported on this printer. And then we also have updates here. Yeah, status is where everything's at. And, oh, the camera is back up, but it looks very dark. So yeah, again, my camera is very buggy, so it must be something with my camera. So yeah, there goes those lines again. Oh, there we go. Well, maybe not. Well, actually, yeah, it's back. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed about the camera, and I'm not sure if it's just my unit, but yeah, it's very laggy and very unreliable, seems like. And then here we have outer recording monitor, so I got that off. Not sure exactly what that is, but so in the control also we got print options, and here you can turn certain things on and off, like recovery, the sound that it makes if you don't want it to do that, and also filament tangle detects. Here you guys can see that right now it's going to our first color, which is the orange here on the AMS. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's gonna just print. You can see here we're at 1% now. It's homing the tool head. Actually pretty simple to use, and if you want to work on a new project, you just go back to prepare here and you do your thing as that's printing, and you can always go back to device here and see your updates. So, and here you guys can see we are printing our first layer. We don't have a purge block, which is going to be really interesting to see how that turns out. But overall, everything looks good. All right, so we've had a little bit of time here with the A1 and we printed out quite a few things. And overall, the machine performs very well, especially for the single printing color. I had no issues whatsoever and all the prints turned out great. And then using the AMS, obviously things get a little more complicated. And even with that said, this is a very simplistic and probably the most put together multi-material system that I've used. So first, let's look at the single material printing. And you guys saw the first benchy, and then I actually printed out 3 more benchies. So I did one in black, which you guys can see here, turned out very well, even being 14 minutes long. So yeah, it does put the layers down beautifully and very quickly. We do have something a little bit in there, but yeah, pretty much perfect, I would say. Now I also sliced the same benchy myself in the Bambu slicer for the recommended most efficient printing, and this is what we got. And this is actually, if I can remember correctly, about 45 to 50 minutes, so quite a bit longer, and the quality is a little better. We do have a little bit discoloring from shiny to matte because of the speed, but yeah, it is a little bit better. There's more detail and definitely a lot more solid benchy than this one. This one feels much lighter, but yeah, pretty incredible that even printing at super speeds, you guys can see the fast benchy looks great. And here we have another benchy that's printed in a 0.16 layer height instead of the 0.2, which the other two are. And you guys can see it is pretty clean. Again, not much better than the other ones, and this took over an hour to print. But we do have more resolution and detail, like in the wording back there, and just basically more detail. We do have more layers. Yeah, and this is in gray. So as you guys can see, it does very well with the benchies. Here we had a pretty interesting print. I guess it's like a pan flute. So this is supposed to be functional. You blow in there. We did have some stringing. You guys can see there inside. It does kind of work. I'm not going to attempt to play it. I think some of that stringing might be messing up the airflow. But in any case, it did a great job here. And on the black, we can really see everything well. It's a beautiful piece here. And it also comes with the printer. I went ahead and printed out more stuff that was included with the printer, like this little flyer here, and this actually printed in pieces and it's put together. And here we have black PLA, and this piece actually screws down to hold this piece that falls through. Yeah, very nicely printed out. The layers are just beautiful on everything. Tolerances are perfect. So you just put this through, and then you put the copter flyer on top, and then you pull it and it flies away. So, and it actually works really good. You do have to pull it pretty quick and hard to make it go, but definitely a fun little toy. So another print here is this gauge for bolts, and we have little labels here that tells us what size bolt it is, and you can measure it, and also the length. So this is good just to get a quick idea of what size bolts you got laying around. And this was also included with the printer, and I printed this in the gray PLA. So after realizing I had some stringing problem, I printed a few of these. This is just one of them that I got pretty much where I wanted. Basically, I was playing around with how much retraction I need, and so in your machine settings you can change the retraction in the Bambu lap slicer, and originally comes with 0.8 retraction, and I ended up going to 1.1. I started practically getting perfect prints after that. So this is a good way to test your retractions and adjust them. And actually, before I did adjust it, I printed this bear out, which really shows how stringy it is in between the little holes there. And also it depends on the filament. Some filaments a little bit more stringy than others, but you guys can see this is a pretty cool bear. It's like a tricolor, changes color. And there's a lot of retractions here, so turned out very well. And bumping the retraction will definitely make all that stuff go away. So another print I printed, which I thought was going to fit my car. This was actually for a different model, paddle shifters for an Audi. And I printed this actually in PETG, and there's two of them. So it turned out pretty good. There's a little bit of layering issues or sticking, and I believe that was because it was printing too fast for PETG. And I believe if it was slowed down, it'd be pretty much perfect. But yeah, as you guys can see, PETG is no issue and it sticks perfectly with this printer, and it does look great overall. And so for items like this, you can print with PETG or even ABS. Shouldn't be a problem for smaller kind of parts or items on this build plate. We also have this little octopus, and unfortunately we did lose a few legs during printing because they got knocked off. Well, I guess just one leg here almost, and then a piece of another. Here we go. But yeah, other than that, it did print out. And this is also a tricolor filament here. So it's like black, purple, and blue looks like. And yeah, so the bed does stick well, but we do need to fine tune some of the parameters of maybe Z-hopping and everything like that. Well, I just tore off a piece to get it where it doesn't knock off the pieces. So yeah, this was printed very fast. And my guess is maybe that's part of the reason why it knocked a few of these little parts off as it was printing, as there's a bunch of them that need to stick and then combine together as it prints out. But yeah, if you guys look at the layers there, it's pretty much perfect and it looks beautiful. So again, with single color printing, this printer does an excellent job. And our largest single print is over here, which is a headphone stand. Yeah, this thing did a great job. It all printed in one go, and this piece actually comes off here from the top. So this is basically like a multi-purpose. You can hang headphone on both ends, or you can just take this piece out and hang one pair with the pads going like this. So yeah, I thought it was pretty unique, and I got into headphone listening recently, so I needed some stands. Yeah, we can see it's very smooth here on top, beautiful finish, so he does a great job. But where there was overhang, we can kind of see it's not perfect. Still actually really good for how fast this thing was printing. It looks really good. There's some ringing and vibrations obviously, but overall looks great. And I did have to put this together with some M3 bolts with these spacers in between. And yeah, overall I'm very happy with how this turned out. And I'm definitely going to be using this to store my headphones on. And speaking about stands, I do have another stand over there. As you guys can see, there's a lot of purge on the side there. And if one thing that needs to be mentioned is that there is a lot of material that gets used up as you do multicoloring. So every time a color changes, especially from white to black, there has to be a lot of purge in between to clean out the nozzle completely so you have a nice clean print. This is where we printed the Panda here, which comes with the printer. And we did change his eyes to orange instead of the blue, which turned out really nice. Do have a layer shift here. This is not completely the printer's fault, as the power went out. Fortunately, the PI kept the print stuck even after it was completely cooled off. And then when I had power again, I was able to resume the print. But the issue is when it resumed, it was offset right here. But the interesting part is as it kept printing, for some reason it jumped back to where it's supposed to be, which is really odd. So I'm thinking this is just a software glitch, as it doesn't completely remember where it was. And I have another print that did exactly the same thing because there was a storm going by and the power kept going out, unfortunately. And this was our purge block. Not too big, but you guys can see a lot of black and white changes there. Now, what happens if you don't use the purge block? And this is where we got this turtle here that we sliced. And if you don't use the purge block, it doesn't purge enough, go between the colors, and so you got color bleed. And you can kind of tell here on the bottom part, it's a little darker between the oranges. That is the color bleed. The brown and orange doesn't really affect it too much because they're similar tones. You can kind of see that because the very bottom here, the tips, that's the actual orange. But here we do have some color bleed with the brown, and obviously the black definitely color bleeds. You can see it even more, and that's a lot more noticeable as we go up here. We have color bleed from the black into the orange. So yeah, overall it turned out great. You do need to use a purge block because if you don't, you have to purge even more on the nozzle. Now I did see an option where you can purge into the infill, and that might actually help a little bit without wasting so much filament. But that's something you got to play around with and tune. Now a print that did do very well, as we did use a purge block, is this gear. And I'm not sure what I did with the purge block, but I lost it somewhere in that sea of purge. But in any case, the gear is pretty unique because this is a functional print, and we did different colors for the certain parts. So we got the brown on the outside, got gray here for 2 gears, we got white for the other 2, and then black for the last. And the middle is also black. And what's incredible is this thing printed and just popped off the build plate and just worked right off the bat. So if we hold the center, we can spin this thing and you guys can see the gears. So yeah, pretty incredible that it just worked right off the printer. And this thing is smooth as butter. It's literally perfect. And we did this with multiple filaments in different colors. So yeah, very cool. So here we have a headphone stand that did not finish. And the reason I didn't want to finish it, not only was I already using a lot of material printing this, but because I had a power outage again, unfortunately, because of the storm that was going by. When I restarted it or resumed printing after the power loss, it was offset again, just like the Panda. And I didn't want to continue printing it as it was pretty much a failed print. So yeah, this was going to be really cool, as this is like a also headphone holder with some feet that go this way and a little bracket here that you put the headphones on. What was cool about it is that it was 3-tone here with black and white on the front and gold on the inside, and it was looking really good. And I was hoping everything was going to go fine, as this was a 30+ hour print, and unfortunately I did have a power out on it and we had to let it go. So I might try to print this again, as I do really like this combination of colors. I was running out of the gold, so I would need to get that before I can do it. So the next print I kind of custom made here, and just an S with a red background, and actually the whole back is red, you can see here. And this is a more simplistic kind of slice, but kind of cool in the slicer. You can literally paint and select the colors you want on the surfaces, and this is what I did here. I made a few of these, as I'm going to put them on my brake calipers on the car. So yeah, with the color painter and the slicer, you can get really creative with what you can make. And the more flat the model is, the less filament you're going to waste purging. So the purge obviously works with height and how many different colors. So yeah, if you're going to print something small with lots of different colors, you're going to waste a lot of filament. And that's this example here, which by the way had a huge purge block, and it's heavy. And the reason for that is because we got 4 different colors, and we actually got pretty unique colors in here because we used trifilament as some of them. So we have a huge amount of mixture here with the different filaments, and also lots of detail pieces. Hopefully I can get close enough here so you guys can see. Well, let's start at the bottom. So we got black on the bottom, and then we have on his little feet there, we got little black nails on the edges on both sides. Then we got this tricolor filament going up higher here that kind of turns to green, and then the blue, which looks really cool. So it's like bronze, green, and blue looks like. And then as the shell starts, we got a different tricolor filament, which is a purple, I guess gold. And you can't really see this side because there's only 2 sides of it, but yeah. Okay, you can kind of see the black there on the front of it. So the black is this way, and then we got this greeny gold to the purpley blue. So then we had the white vest on the front with the black arms. Again, lots of different contrast here. And then as we go up, our body here is still that same kind as we had down here, but we do have like a little piece of black here on the back of the head. So yeah, kind of hard to see it all, but lots of different colors, guys. And then we got white eyes, which turned out pretty good. There's a little bit of droopage there on the top. Yeah, all of this, guys, was painted in the slicer. Took a very long time to print, and it's pretty small. The purge block is huge and heavier than the print. And we had a ton of purge poops over there. As you guys can see, there's a whole sea of them. Actually, you guys can't see all of them unless I completely zoom out, but yeah, they go pretty far back there. And that's just for these color prints that we printed here, which is a lot of filament that went to waste. And with that said, even though we do have some drawbacks to, you know, color printing and multi-material printing, this is still a very well put together machine that works incredibly well. From the slicing to the printing and the AMS just being very simple to use. And if you use Bambu Lab filaments, it knows the color of them, which is also pretty incredible. It's like a built-in sensor there somehow that it knows. You can obviously use any brand filament and it still works fine. And on that note, I do have a few things I want to say, or I had a little bit of issues with. One was this wire. You need to be very careful about it not going around this beam here, because if it does, it's going to snag everything, and yeah, you're going to have trouble. So whenever you set up all your tubes and wires, make sure they're all pointing away from here and not towards the back. So that's one thing to definitely keep an eye out. Another thing here is that the AMS system only does more basic materials and can't do things like TPU. So if you want to do TPU printing, it would have to be, you know, just straightly directly into the extruder, which I did not test, but should work just fine with that. Another thing I can't show you guys right now, but the build plate is a little tedious to put on. It does have the end stops, but it tends to kind of fight with you, and to line it up just right, you do have to butt it just right and put it down. Not a big deal, just something I noticed. But yeah, other than that, there's not too much to really say bad things about this thing. It's pretty incredible. The power outage restart offset does need to be addressed somehow, and I don't know if it's just my unit or maybe it's software based, because it did happen on both of the prints. And the other part obviously is purge blocks and material waste, and that's something that can probably be addressed somewhat in the slicer with purging into the infill. Might help a bit. Yeah, as far as color printing goes, it's very fun and exciting, but very time consuming, as it does take much longer, as the process of changing filaments is also quite long. And I think I've said that too much already, but I do want to emphasize that you will be going through a lot of filament. And actually, guys, I just realized that I did show one print here, which is spiralized mode. I did this little small vase in spiralized mode. So it's a few layers on the bottom and then this one layer all the way around, kind of complex and actually more strong because we have layers that touch each other. So it's a little stronger than normal spiralized. So yeah, spiralized mode is not an issue here with this printer. There's a lot of things going for the A1, as the build volume is great at 256 squared, which is also like their other printers, the P1P, the X1. It's very quick. With single printing, I've actually really enjoyed it, as the prints come out of this thing really fast and the quality is excellent. I love this whole extruder, as it's very meticulously designed to work great with cutting the filament. Loading, unloading is easy. This indicator here is great to look at what's happening with the extruder movements. The purge here is uniquely designed. Cooling is great. The removable stainless steel nozzle is quick to interchange, and it does heat up to 300 C, and the bed does go up to 100 C. We also get the PI build plate that's flexible, really easy to pop off the models, and they actually come off on their own. And when we did have power loss, the prints didn't pop off, even though it completely cooled off for many hours, and then it just started printing again. We do get a little light here and a camera to monitor the prints. The linear rail on the x-axis is great, and also we got metal rails for the y-axis. The touchscreen is amazing. It is a little bit offset here for whatever reason. It does swivel, which can be useful, I guess. But you can kind of see it's off just a little bit, which if you have OCD, it might bother you. But yeah, the touchscreen is very responsive and everything is easy to access and makes sense. And yeah, just the whole software, you know, once you get into Bambu Lab, their slicer, their printers, and how everything just works so well together, it's very impressive as a whole. So overall, I give a huge thumbs up for this thing. As I think of what you pay to what you get and going into Bambu Labs, this is an excellent choice here, especially if you're getting started and you want something that's, you know, more higher end end than your typical. But with that said, if you are not interested in the color printing, you can buy this printer with just, you know, the printer itself and print off of this spool holder here, and it does an excellent job with that. And I think for anyone that wants to get into 3D printing, this would be a great choice, either with the AMS or without, depending on what you want to do. But I feel like going with the whole combo is probably a better deal, as eventually you would want to try it out. And there are occasions where you do want to print color printing and you don't mind, you know, sacrificing some filament for that, as it's quite important depending on the project you're doing. So yeah, the combo here is excellent value overall for what you get. So if you guys are interested in this thing, I'm going to have some links in the description. Check it out. If you did enjoy this very long video and you got to the end, I do really appreciate it. Hit that like button. And if you enjoy videos like this, I do have a playlist with a lot of different reviews, so check that out and stick around for more 3D printing videos coming up. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.